Today's March 3rd, and the title for today's quote is Obstacles. And this quote is very simple. It's actually a question that I'd like you to answer. And this is the quote. What is the biggest obstacle that stands between you and Krishna? Or what are the biggest obstacles that stand between you and Krishna? This is a very, very important question. Because obviously there are obstacles and some are bigger than others. So another way of phrasing this question would be, if that obstacle weren't there, what would your spiritual life look like? Or what obstacle that's getting in the way of your relationship with Krishna, if removed, would enhance your spiritual life tremendously, would make it so that basically the path was clear. So you want to look at the things which are really the main obstacles to your relationship with Krishna, or to the main obstacles to your spiritual advancement. And contemplate what your life would be like without these obstacles. Just imagine they didn't exist. And then start to think, okay, if this obstacle didn't exist, if I didn't have this desire, if I didn't have this attachment, if I didn't have this kind of ego, or this level of pride, or this level of lust or greed, or whatever it is that really is the big obstacle, or attachment to a specific thing that I feel I must do, but it's not really helping my Krishna consciousness. Just imagine for a moment it wasn't there, and think, how would that affect your spiritual life? What it would be like? And if you do that, you'll realize this obstacle is probably more detrimental or bigger than I thought it was. It's creating more problems in my Krishna consciousness than I thought. So as you meditate on that way, you begin to realize this problem is probably a lot more serious than I thought, and I haven't given it, let's say, the energy to deal with as I should. So then the next process of thinking is, okay, what could I do to minimize this? Now that I realize this problem is bigger than I thought it was, it's more detrimental to my spiritual life than I actually imagined it was, it brings awareness that this is something that I should deal with, because if we don't realize how serious the problem is, we won't deal with it, or we won't put the energy in required to deal with it. So now, if I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how big is that problem in your spiritual life? Well, if it's the biggest, probably you would say 10. Then I would ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, what effort are you making? What endeavor are you making to, what's the level of your endeavor to overcome it? So if the problem is at a 10, your effort must be at a 10. I think most of us would say probably my effort is 6, 7, 8, 9. If it's anything less than 10, that explains why that particular obstacle is problematic. And according to the effort you make, it's going to be less problematic or more problematic. So we want to look at these big obstacles. We want to think, what can we do to overcome them? Now, one way you can do this is write the obstacle on a piece of paper. Say, my obstacle is, write the question. How can I overcome blank, whatever that obstacle is? How can I overcome my ego, my pride, my lust, my greed, my attachment to this? And then write down 20 answers that just come to you. But it has to be 20, because when you get to about 6 or 7, you probably won't be able to think of anything more. And at 6 or 7, that's when you really have to start coming up with ideas probably you haven't thought of yet. And so you want to get to 20, because often the last 2 or 3, like 18, 19, 20, are the best ideas, because you've had to strain so much through the obvious to something more deep, some deeper strategy or deeper action or deeper way of thinking of this. So the whole point of this question is to bring awareness to a problem, to bring awareness to the degree that this problem is affecting us, to bring awareness of how big the problem is, and then to bring awareness of how much I really need to do that I may not be doing to deal with it. And if I do, how much better my spiritual life would be. So please, after you listen to this, think of something you have to deal with. Don't put it off. Don't suppress it. Don't pretend it's not a problem. Just think about it. Deal with it. And you'll be extremely happy that you dealt with it, because if you deal with it, if you face it and start working on it, you're going to gradually overcome the problem. And if you neglect it, push it aside, pretend it's not that bad, it's not there, I'll get over it naturally in the course of time, it doesn't just go away like that. You really have to work on it. So today's quote is very important for us. Work on that big problem, realize how big it is, think about what your life would be if you didn't have that problem, and develop some strategies to start working on it. Hare Krishna.